Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today we're going to talk about something we get asked a lot by newer shooters, friends of ours, and things like that. And it's also, in the gun community, kind of a contentious topic. If you ask 5 people, you get 6 different opinions, and I'm sure many of those will come out in the comments in the video. But what we're going to talk about is, what do you do? I've got this new gun, and I want to start carrying it, and how do I know it's going to work? So we've kind of developed a process that we go through to take a new gun from just brought it home, from the store, to it's riding around in our holster with the confidence that it's going to work. Different things may affect, what you need to do, but basically we call the process certifying. And the only reason we do that, we give it a name, so instead of having to ask, have we taken this to the range and tested it with carry ammo, we can just say, is it certified? And that certifying process that we go through is what we do to test a gun to determine, is it going to most likely be reliable? I mean, they're machines. No matter what you do, you can have a malfunction. Hopefully not at the time you need it most. But if you kind of go through a little bit of a vetting process, you might minimize the likelihood of it. And I've got an assortment of different guns here, and this is an empty box of ammo. And I'm going to bring some ammo out throughout the discussion, but I've got ammo that will not chamber in anything on this table. Normally we don't bring ammo out with guns, but what I'm going to bring is calibers that won't fit in any of these, so that they're going to stay unloaded as we go through this. And you take something like a revolver, you might be inclined to say, let's take it out of the box and stick it in your pants. Well, not necessarily a good idea, even though revolvers are highly reliable, especially when you get one from unknown quality manufacturer. It is a mechanical device. It can have a manufacturing defect. So what we'll do with a revolver is take it home, clean it, oil it, and inspect it. Anytime you get a new gun, don't just take it out of the box and take it to the range and start shooting it. You want to clean it, oil it, inspect it. You want to make sure that any obvious manufacturing defects you've seen. And cleaning it and oiling it is important because generally the lubrication that's on a gun from the factory is intended to protect it from rust. It's intended to protect it from harsh environment riding from the manufacturer through warehouses, sitting in trucks, till it finally gets to you. It's not intended to lubricate it for operation. So once you do that, something like a revolver, we'll take it to the range and go through about 50 rounds of range ammo, just to make sure it's basically functional. The trigger doesn't lock up every time you get to a certain spot on the wheel, that after 6 or 7 rounds it doesn't start to malfunction or go dead trigger. Once we've done that, then we would shoot 1 to 2 wheels of the carry ammo that we're going to choose to carry in it. And you might say, well, what's the difference? Well, typically range ammo is ball ammo. It's got a very round nose. Now in a revolver this isn't going to matter so much. It's going to be more cartridge length. But on a ball ammo you've got a very round nose. Most defense ammo has some sort of a truncated cone. So if you take this Hornady HST, which is for these automatics, Federal HST. I've got Hornady on this side and Federal on this side. The Federal HST is for the automatics. It's got a truncated cone. That can make a difference depending on the feed ramp. This rounded might just slide right up a feed ramp where it might catch here. So you'd want to test that. In a revolver, you might just have a slightly different bullet length. You might find yourself in a situation where your chosen carry ammo hangs up when it's in the cylinder and kind of hangs up on it. So you would want to test it. Now on a revolver, where all it really has to work is that this cylinder has to rotate and the hammer has to hit the primer, or the firing pin has to hit the primer. There's a little less to test. So 50 rounds of range ammo and then a wheel or 2 of our defense ammo is enough to tell us that a revolver is going to work. And one thing is, it's a 0 malfunctions. And what I mean by that is it's 50 rounds with absolutely 0 malfunctions. Single malfunction, the count starts over until you've gone through a full 50 rounds. During the certification process, if we have any malfunctions during that couple of wheels, then that tells us that we may have an ammo issue, that this gun may not like that particular ammo. It's time to start over. We don't necessarily go back and start over with the range ammo. What we're looking for there is that it may need a different defense ammo, so we're going to give it the benefit of the doubt. Now if this is something like a Saturday night special, you might not be able to get through 50 rounds before it blows up. But if you've got something that is a newer design, a less known manufacturer, or it gives you any kind of confidence issues, then up that number, 50, 100, 150. And if anything during the process kind of gives you the heebie-jeebies, like, maybe the trigger hasn't quite worked right or something like that, then you might extend it. So enough about revolvers. I mean, they're pretty reliable for the most part and really don't require as much intensive testing. But now let's talk about the automatics. You know, Glock's got a reputation for being highly reliable. Does that mean Glocks never fail? Absolutely not. But are they less likely to fail than, you know, some other manufacturers? Yeah, these things just tend to work. I'm very comfortable with a Glock, theoretically taking it out, you know, clean it, oil it, put it in my holster. But as I've already mentioned, that's not a smart thing to do. Never had a Glock that wouldn't pass in the first 200 rounds. You get through the first 200 rounds of range ammo, it just works. You switch over to the defense ammo, test that, and move on. But there is one exception to that. The initial Glock 42s, you know, I got one of the very first ones out. They hit the street, you know, on Monday, and I had it Monday afternoon kind of thing. And those did have some problems. So it took me a little longer to certify the 42. For the most part, it would work with most range ammo, but it kept, you know, kind of acting a little weird. We replaced some parts, and we started to count over. So really, other than the 42, I haven't had to do anything like that with a Glock. But the 42 was an example of one that I kept extending the window until I actually had it where it worked perfectly and didn't have any issues whatsoever. And we've got some videos on, you know, what was wrong with the initial one and the things that were done to fix it. So that does tell you that, you know, just because it's a known brand doesn't mean that the one that you've got in your hand is going to be perfect. Or in the case of the 42, it was an entirely new design for Glock. So no matter how good they are at making this 19, you know, this 19's been around for a while, you know, the 42 is completely different. Now the Gen 5, which is what this is, might be another example of something you might want to extend it a little bit, because though the 19's been around forever, they did change some things in the fire control group on the 19. Changed the barrel a little bit and some of the other characteristics. So you might, if you have any kind of a feeling that this isn't working right, want to extend it. This particular one probably had about 300 or 400 rounds through it before we certified it. Not because we didn't feel good about it, but because we were shooting it for videos, we were shooting it for testing, and of course we had one and everybody wanted to try it. But there's an example of, for the most part, you got a trusted manufacturer. You're probably going to go from a couple hundred rounds right into your defense ammo, and away you go. One note about defense ammo. We have a liking for Federal HST. It's a really good ammo. This is a 45 ACP, so of course it won't fit any of these. But the 9mm, the 40, they're all similarly designed ammo. And we try to stay consistent. We use this ammo in everything, unless it doesn't like it. So we can be fairly confident that this ammo is going to work. We've seen it work in many, many other guns. We've seen it work in a bunch of Glocks. So that it gives us comfort and confidence that this is a reliable ammo, and it's very consistent. I'm not saying whatever you've picked isn't good. If there's something else you've picked, great. If you've got good luck with it and it's consistent and your guns like it, you know, kind of stick with it. It also makes it easier to feed more than one. Now let's talk about one that kind of met the criteria for problems, new design, even with a trusted manufacturer. We've got this PPQ SC. The first one of these we had a manufacturing defect in it. And it's another one of those where we got our hands on, you know, the early releases, the very first releases, and they replaced it. So this is the replacement. Well, that kind of, we still liked the gun. We still thought it had potential. It is a Walther, and they are known for quality, and the PPQ's got just an awesome trigger. So we didn't want to give up on this thing, but we did want to give it a little bit more testing since we'd had that initial issue with the first copy of it. So we did a 2,000 round test on this, and we didn't certify this until after the 2,000 round test was completed. Now, did we need to go through 2,000 rounds of range ammo to certify this gun? Probably not, but there was a lot of concern all over the internet about the polymer components in the striker channel and stuff like that, that this thing wasn't going to hold up. So we figured this would be a good candidate for a 2,000 round test if we're going to do it on anything. I mean, a 2,000 round test on a Glock is going to be pretty boring. Chances are it's probably just going to work. So we did that, and then we certified it. And we had no trouble at all, zero malfunctions during the 2,000 rounds. When we went to certify it, we actually did have a problem with this. And the problem was on the extended mag. If you remember, if you saw our video on the 2,000 round test, when we were firing with the extended mag, every once in a while, it wouldn't actually malfunction, but the slide, it would cycle weird. You just feel it cycle differently. It would go into battery and it would fire. Well, when we put that extended mag with the HST, it did fail to go into a battery a couple times. but it worked flawlessly with the flush mount mag. So we decided on this one that it's a carry gun. We were going to carry it with the flush mount mag anyway. So we consider this to be certified with the flush mount mag, but not with the extended mag. So we would not use the extended mag for carry with this gun. And there's a case where you might say, I'm going to use the gun. I've got a set of mags I know works, but I'm going to exclude from the equation a mag that I don't have confidence in, but that doesn't mean I don't have confidence in the gun itself. Now you personally may not be concerned about that. You might be figuring by the time I get to the extended mag, it's going to be a rarity and you might choose to carry it anyway. So what if I had to cycle it? Or you might be at the other end of the spectrum saying, nope, if it won't work with every mag that's ever made, I'm not going to carry it. But it kind of goes back and forth. So this one, we did do extended range ammo testing, and we did kind of modify the criteria of what we'll carry this with to flush mount mag only due to that malfunction. We had a similar kind of an interesting experience with this little Sig, this little P238. It's a great little gun. It's kind of a little baby 1911 cocked and locked kind of setup, single stack, and this one's a 380. During the range ammo part of the testing, it was flawless. It absolutely worked perfectly. Not a single problem whatsoever. And so we got to the point where, okay, we're going to certify this one because it's a nice little backup gun. It's a nice little, I'm wearing dress clothes, so I need something that's thin and light kind of gun. Kind of tough to put this into dress pants and have it not show. Whereas this, you really can. So we wanted to get this thing certified. So we took it out to the range and we took it with the federal ammo, and it malfunctioned. It would hang up. Actually, I would take that back. It worked flawlessly at the range when we were testing it. So you put a mag in it, hold it up, release it, and it worked perfectly. So we considered it certified. Brought it home, went to chamber it, to actually load it and set it up to be carried, and happened to tilt it. Well, if I lock this one open, you'll see that there's a lot of play in the barrel. And that's not a big deal. It's not a defect or anything. It's just, the 1911-ish style design has a tendency to do that. Well, I don't remember which way we tilted it, but whichever way we tilted it caused the feed ramp to move just enough that it would hang up on that truncated cone of the federal ammo. So it wouldn't go into battery when we were trying to chamber that initial round. And I think when we were at the range, we had it level, or we might have had it laid down, but we didn't tilt it up or down. Well, okay, at that point it was immediately decertified. But do we have to start all over again with range ammo? No, it had already proven itself to be reliable with range ammo. What we had there was an ammo sensitivity. So the choice of defense ammo that we'd chosen for this gun was not going to be a good choice for this gun. So we moved to some Hornady. And Hornady has a much pointier cone, so it's much narrower. And if you look at the feed ramp on this little guy, you'll see it's got a fairly narrow feed ramp. So if I take a bullet with a narrow pointy cone, and of course the 380 is much smaller than this and much pointier than this. This is a 44 Magnum. It's going to much more likely to ride properly up that feed ramp regardless of what the barrel's going to do. So what we did is we started the certification back over at the defense ammo stage, took it to the range, and we went through a couple mags of defense ammo, the Hornady at this point. But we also made it a point to try to replicate the issues that we had. We tried chambering it up, chambering it down, going through a few tests to make sure that not only does it cycle the Hornady correctly and reliably, but can I put a mag in, chamber it pointing down, chamber it pointing up, and it was flawless at that point. So this particular one we consider certified with the Hornady. And that's an important note. You certify it with a particular bullet design, whether it's pointy or whether it's flat, or if you're carrying ball ammo, which for defense is really not a good idea, you want to stick with that. And even with the bullet weights, if you choose a particular bullet weight in a particular manufacturer like this Hornady, you may find that a lighter weight bullet or a heavier bullet will affect the cycling characteristics just enough to make a reliable gun now unreliable, or vice versa. If it doesn't work with a particular bullet weight and the caliber has a diversity of weights, you may try another one. So I wouldn't take this gun or even this Glock that I had certified with a particular manufacturer and weight and just randomly swap the ammo out and assume that it's still good. Now, in a defensive scenario where I've run out of ammo and I'm picking up some ammo, well, at that point, I mean, things can only get worse from here, so you don't worry about it there. But when I'm deliberately choosing what I'm going to put in here, what I'm going to put in my backup mag, I'm going to be consistent. So basically, just kind of sum it up, we don't take guns out of the box and shoot them. We take them out of the box and clean them, and then we shoot them. And we don't stick them straight into our holster. And I don't care what their reputation is or how new they are, we go through a little process to make sure that the gun we're going to pull out in an emergency, hopefully which will never happen, is got a higher than average likelihood of working. There's no guarantees in life, but we've done everything we can to ensure that the gun works. Because the important note is, if you carry a gun and you pull it out, that encounter is a gunfight. You've escalated that encounter, and the other people involved in that encounter may act accordingly. So once the gun comes out, it had better work if you have to use it. And that's the process we go through. Now, I'm not saying what you do is definitely is right or wrong. I mean, if it works for you, that's great. If you don't have a process, you might want to implement, 1, 2, verify the guns. And I'm sure that there's different people that have different opinions. I know some people run significantly more range ammo through it, or more defense ammo, but that can get very expensive quickly. And the important thing is the range ammo is doing the basic function test. Does this thing work at all? And you're going to get through that. Once you get to the defense ammo, really all you're trying to do is, does it work with this ammo? A couple mags, of course, fully loaded mags. Start with a loaded chamber, a full mag, so it's under the heaviest load it can possibly be, which is most likely the condition it would be in when you carry it. You're really just determining, does it like that ammo more so than you are function testing it. And of course, Hammer wants to hide the Glock with that PPQ, but you can't hide a Glock. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that little bell if you subscribe. Check us out on Facebook and Patreon, and have a great day. Thank you.